So you want to move to China, but you don't know how. I'm going to create a series of these depending on, your background and your interest and how long you plan on staying. Today, we're going to cover how to become an English teacher in China. This is the most common way that people come to China. Now, I'm not an English teacher, but I used to be, and that's how I came to China. A lot of people do this. They come to China as an English teacher and they pivot. Some of them stay within teaching. They become principals, and some of them just work their way up and pay as English teachers. Now, it is not what it was 10 years ago. There is a huge difference between how to become an English teacher and in China now than there was 10 years ago. There were a lot more expats living in China as English teachers 10 years ago, and there was a huge sprawling English teaching as a second language industry. And most of the people, from my personal experience working in that field and knowing experts and principals then and now, were not qualified to be here. Many people had fake bachelor's degrees. Many people produced fake documents to move to China. There are even some very famous YouTubers who did that. I think one of them called himself a doctor trainer or some ridiculous thing like that. Clearly, he didn't have the education to actually be here. So these people were printing fake documents and coming to China. Now, so about 2019 or so, there was a massive change in the way that China approached English teaching. There was something called the double reduction, where basically most of these really low-tier English teaching jobs for just like training kids outside of school were eliminated through legal mechanisms. So now if you want to come over and you want to be an English teacher in China, it's not that hard. You need basically 2 documents. These are the 2 most basic documents you need for teaching first grade through 12th grade. You need a bachelor's degree, and you need a certificate in teaching English from your home country. I'm not talking about a CELTA or a TEFL certificate. I'm talking about an actual teaching credential from your country. So in the United States, we have teaching credentials. In the UK, you have teaching credentials and so forth. So if you come from a first English-speaking country, like Canada, like Australia, like New Zealand, like the UK, like the United States of America, like South Africa, where the first language is English, and your country primarily speaks English, then this is an option that you can take. You would need a bachelor's degree and a certification from your nation that you could, in fact, teach first grade through 12th grade in your home country. So if you have that certificate and you're in the United States, the advantages to come to China are obviously like adventure, something to do for a few years, but also people who end up moving to China to take up these kinds of positions, on average, live in China longer than 5 years. So many people come over and say, oh, I'm only going to be in China for a year, and they enjoy the quality of life so much and the extra money that they have because purchasing power parity or the cost of things is much better here in China. So you can go from being a lower middle class American high school teacher, middle school teacher, elementary school teacher, to being upper middle class in China, where you can go out frequently and still save money. For those of you who don't have this teaching certificate, or teaching credential, it is still possible for you to come to China and be an English teacher. You must have a legitimate bachelor's degree. The days of printing bachelor's degrees and coming to China with fake credentials are long gone. And so are the people who lived here using those mechanisms. They are long gone. So if you must have a real bachelor's degree, you can start in kindergarten. Now, I know that sounds strange. How am I going to come to China and end up teaching 7th grade if I start in kindergarten if I don't have a teaching qualification from my home country? There is an online school. I make no money from this school, and I've not actually attained one of these degrees because I switched out of teaching, but I know people who have gotten teaching certificates from this university, and it is the only one that I'm aware of in the United States. And that doesn't, if you're from Australia, you can still get this teaching certificate, this credential from this university. It's called Moreland University. And they have a 9-month program to become a certified teacher in the United States. So you're like, oh, I'm from Canada. Well, how does that work for me? Or I'm from the United States. How does that work for me? So you come to China with a TEFL certificate, which you can get online in a month or two. The cheap ones are like $300 or $500. So you go online and you get this TEFL, T-E-F-L certificate, which is very easy to get. It's extremely simple to get. You just take modules and read and take tests and you pass. You have this certificate. Combine that with a real bachelor's degree and you apply for schools in China. Now, almost every school in China is going to pay for your flight to come to China. So I know a lot, before I make this point, a lot of people that I meet online who want to come to China are like, oh, but I need to save money before I come to China. You have the cart before the horse on this one. The reality is you should come to China because you don't have any money, because you want to make a bunch of money, because you want to live well and save money well. So if you have a bachelor's degree, you can just go online and get one of these TEFL certificates and then start applying for kindergartens in China. Now, if you don't have tattoos on your face or something, it should be pretty straightforward for you to get a job if you're from an English first language speaking country, like the ones that I've listed. Now, if you're from one of these countries and you want to come to China and you want to be an English teacher and you have a legitimate bachelor's degree in any subject, and it's also preferred if you have 2 years experience, it doesn't have to be in teaching. They just want you to have worked after your bachelor's degree for 2 years. Some schools don't require that. But then you have a charming personality and you like working with kids. You can apply for a kindergarten here in China. And with your TEFL certificate and your bachelor's degree, once you arrive in China, you apply for the certificate, or you could just stay in kindergarten. Kindergartens pay well now. They pay very well, but there's not enough jobs for everyone to swarm kindergartens in China. So people really need to look at moving to other grades. And, if you work at an international school, you would be amazed at the pay. Some of the international school teachers make 45,000 RMB a month. I'll let you do the math on that, but it's thousands of dollars per month. You can actually make quite a lot of money. If you can work your way up to principal, you can make I'm going to talk about that too. You can make 65, 70,000 RMB a month in China working for an international school as the English-speaking principal. Usually there'll be two principals. There'll be the Chinese principal and the English-speaking principal at these international schools. Sometimes they'll even have a third one, a French-speaking principal, because these international schools have a lot more money and a lot of really wealthy children and children of ambassadors and so forth attend these schools, and they're in all major cities. So you come to the kindergarten, you apply for Moreland University to get your teaching credential, and they also have a master's degrees program that can attach with it. So you can do your credential and a master's degree program all at once. You can easily pay for this with your salary as a kindergarten teacher in China. And then if you just get this teaching certificate, you can then migrate to other grades or international schools as a teacher. If you want to get the master's degree too, then you can migrate and get a few more years of experience and then work your way up to principal as well. So this is the basic path to China for a lot of people from these 8 or 9 countries where English is the first spoken language and they want to come to China and work as an English language teacher. Do not try to pawn off fake certificates in China anymore. You won't make it. You'll get caught, and then you might even get banned or blacklisted from China, as has happened to so many people. You must have legitimate certificates. So you must have a bachelor's degree. This is for people who have a bachelor's degree, how to come to China as an English teacher, how to get a good job. We can talk about other topics like how to find housing and so forth in other episodes. But for now, we're just going to cover this one. And I also want to cover for people who don't live in these countries, how they can come to China, how they can establish a life in China also. And also for people who they have a specific career, where they're a computer programmer, or they're a business manager, or they want to open a business in China. We're going to cover those in later episodes. So please click the subscribe button, like, and leave me a comment. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Elvis has left the building.